Welcome. Welcome. Youngstown
Welcome.
Talk Channel, Joe and Kelin here. I'm going to kind of give you the lead on this one today.
Okay.
So we'll go in Kelin direction, and the phones are open. I found a problem like this guy right here.
Is that an important part?
Do you know what this is?
No.
So this is a frequency filter. And so when you get audio that's coming off of something, sometimes there are other frequencies in there that make it sound distorted or as high pitches or ringing or whatever. And when you have unshielded stuff, sometimes it, makes a buzzing noise
Can you
or
pick
whatever.
up ghosts on that?
You probably can. In fact, most of the phone calls we got were probably ghosts.
Well, that's something we're playing with later.
All right, 330-595-1600. You can call the program. I'm feeling like a little spicy today, so
me too.
So let's throw some spiciness.
Kick a bee's nest.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll lead with, just because I think it's going to be kind of quick. We've sort of touched on this before, but I want to bring it back up just for a minute, because it is getting more and more traction, I think, in the news. This whole Blue Origin space flight. And for anyone who, for some reason, hasn't heard of this, basically it was an all-female crew that went to space, consisting of pop singer Katy Perry, Gayle King, Lauren Sanchez, who's Jeff Bezos' fiance, one actual astronaut, and unfortunately I can't remember her name, and I think there was maybe one other. I feel like there was maybe 5 women. They went to space for like 11 minutes and came back. I think this happened maybe Monday. And they're getting so much hate for it. And so,
well-deserved hate.
Oh my God. And for whatever reason, there's hate. I feel like I want to defend them a little bit.
Okay, let's do it.
And there are definitely points to give hate, and obviously we're going to discuss those. But in particular, Katy Perry, I think, is really getting the majority of the hate.
Good.
And it's for her reaction to this.
Okay.
And we can get into people talking about how much it costs. Was it necessary? What did it do to the environment? Was it gluttonous spending? All that stuff we'll dive into. But people are hating on Katy Perry because of her intense reaction to this. She sang in space. She was talking about how since this trip, she feels she said she feels so connected to love. Like it just put her in this mindset that was just this deep love she felt. And I'm like, interesting, because then you came back to Earth and got nothing but hate for it because we're all crappy people, human beings. She was like kissing the ground when she got back, and everyone's like, you'd think she was one of those astronauts that got like stuck up there for months. It was 11 minutes. People are saying they barely left Earth's atmosphere, like they were on like the edge of space, and they just don't think it was a big enough deal. I'm sorry. If I even went that far into space, 1, I'd be like crapping myself, terrified. 2, to see what they saw, because there's video footage, to me would be like the coolest thing ever. And I would think that even though I wasn't way off in outer space, I didn't walk on the moon, I wasn't there long, I could totally understand someone having a very deep and meaningful reaction to this trip. I don't think for her to feel that way is necessarily a bad or weird thing.
It's just not notable. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let me tell you about this weekend.
Did you go to space?
This weekend.
Yeah.
Somebody went on a whole car of women went on the Millennium Force, and it was exhilarating and thrilling that they got back and they had an experience that they've never felt speed and G-forces like they did. It's a momentous occasion. A little insulting that like, oh, you're making the wedge point as if this is an accomplishment for women to sit in a chair, right? And let the vehicle that you're on go through some thrilling experience, and then you get to tell everybody like that was really exciting. So I feel that little tourist ride that they did is just a very expensive Millennium Force ride, and I don't attribute it as an accomplishment to women.
But here's the thing, to call it a tourist ride, if you would have told someone, I don't even know, 50 years ago that we would be able to send someone to the space and have it be so insignificant to us that we call it a tourist ride, they would have been like, what? Like, to have the technology to do that.
Okay, you can do the G-force planes where you go up into a plane and it does a free fall and you get to experience 0 Gs, right? Costs a lot of money. And then you get to float in the outer, like they're really high, right?
Yeah. Is that what that guy did that did the space jump? Remember Felix something who did the jump?
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, we'll circle
but anyway, it's a thrill ride. It's a very expensive thrill ride where you get to experience something that not everybody gets to thrill, but it's still just a ride. You're not like, you're not conquering something.
So why? Okay, let's talk about this. It was Felix something. This was, oh my God, maybe 10 years ago now. You don't remember the space jump? It was so cool. So this guy, and it was advertised for days too. And everybody was like, so many countdown days until space jump. And this guy went to the edge of our atmosphere,
right,
to where you could literally see like the earth and space, the curvature, and physically just nothing around him, just his body, like he was skydiving, jumped out of his aircraft all the way down to earth. And he passed out a couple of times. Right. It was, they talked about the effect of this on his body. And it was a thrill for everybody watching, and everybody thought it was the coolest thing. But
I'm not saying that I don't think it's cool. I'm saying it's no different than a bunch of millionaires going in a submarine and going down to see the Titanic in depths. It's a thrill ride, right? They just did it for the experience, no different than what you would do at an amusement park. Yeah. They didn't push on the boundaries of a technology where they were doing the formation where yes, there's risk in coming back down into the atmosphere that the capsule holds up.
Yeah, there's probably risk in going up.
But that might be a regular thing. You might be able to buy a ticket to go up on the Blue Origin and free fall from, really high up in Earth's atmosphere on the edge of, edge of space.
So
it's accessible now.
Why do you think they got more hate than like when William Shatner did it?
The lead up, like when you dress it up as it's an actual
media's fault.
And the people, the way that you invest in it, I think it's very insulting to the people. So everybody said, okay, William Shatner, famous for roles that he played where he was connected to space, and it's pretty cool to take this guy and have him shake hands with the thing that he played a role in, right? It made sense that way. And the other people that were Jeff Bezos was in there. I mean, he's the guy that you trust his equipment, so that made sense. So that one was just hey, we're shooting this thing off anyway, and we're putting the CEO on, and we're putting the guy that does a lot of work in space, or in theater space, and might as well make it a couple extra people on there to do it. And they didn't drum it up as like, oh, they're doing something that no one else has done before. SpaceX launches a rocket every other week, right?
I think they had said it was like the first pop star in space.
Who cares about that? Let's put okay. I'm going to take a toaster and put it in the sea, and then that would be the first toaster in space. And there's nothing of significance to a pop star sitting in a seat and letting the smart people take them to a thrill ride that they wouldn't get elsewhere. And
here's the thing too, which in an argument against this, like I said, I can understand some of the points. Like, they kept saying a lot of articles kept calling it the first female only staffed, and that's not true. It was not the first, only female staff. And then it changed to, well, it's the first completely female manned aircraft in so many years. And I'm like, still not the first.
Well, and see, that's the most annoying part. They want to attribute a first in something. And that's the insulting part, because they're using the premise that somehow women are incapable of doing things that other people are. So when they do it, it's, you know what I mean? It's almost condescending. Like, look, even the weaker sex that can't control themselves and can't get through space training did something good on them. I'm like, they're just people. They're strong ones. They're capable ones. They can go do it too. It's whether or not they've done it before, it's meaningless. You didn't hit through some kind of barrier, right, by populating it with all women. That is not even really part of the story. The pop star part isn't part of the story. It's hey, we let somebody drive a thrill ride or be a passenger.
Yeah, and to me, like, I don't find any fascination in who went. To me, it's just, holy crap, look how far we've come. That going to space is now just an 11-minute thrill ride.
And we'll get more and more.
And it's like, wow, we've gotten that far. That we just do it
that's
for fun.
impressive.
Yes.
Doing it, I might buy a ticket on it because it would be a very thrilling thing.
That was going to be my next question.
Probably not proportional to the cost. I'll have to wait until it's so common. There's so many rockets. They've gotten into efficient process where it's not a couple $1 million to go up, but it is equal to the submarine ride.
So if Jeff Bezos was like, Joe Danyi, I'm looking for people to go up in space.
Yeah.
I'm funding it. You'd be all for it.
Yeah. And when I came down, I would say the same stuff. That was exhilarating. I see all the potential in space travel. I would say probably more intelligently than Katy Perry said on her way back, but it would make the same impression on me.
So what would you do then if you did this and then you got hate for whatever your impression was when you got back? You got hate for even going. Oh my God, people can't afford eggs right now. Why would you go to space, Joe?
Part of the deal.
But you'd probably be like, screw you, I went to space and it was cool.
Yeah, I did it. I wanted to do it. Notice me like the first 5'4" astronaut went there. I'd be like, what? 5'4" people could do space?
We could do big things even though we're little.
Yes, exactly. I wouldn't expect there to be a glass ceiling that I punctured by going. I bought a freaking ticket. Now, here's the thing. If all of those people that went through astronaut training that would made them an actual astronaut where they had to go through all of the physical requirements. I mean, I'm sure you can't be obese and there's got to be the same kind of like disclaimers that you do when you ride the Millennium Force.
Yeah.
Right. But they're not astronauts. They were passengers.
One was, I think.
But they weren't astronauts.
Yeah.
This does not constitute astronaut. They didn't drive the ship. They didn't engineer the ship. They couldn't explain. There wasn't experiments done on it. They didn't have an understanding of space. Like they didn't do the astronaut stuff. So they were just.
Are you sure they did?
I'm sure that they did some physical training.
Yeah.
Right. But the people that usually go on these trips are trained for years to be able to pilot and.
Well, they're probably also going up further and for longer rather than just
real
the tip
space.
for 11
This was
minutes.
Like tourist space.
Yeah.
Real space.
This was like, right.
Yeah. And
barely space.
I don't want to minimize the experience because I think it would be pretty cool and it would be life altering to have done it.
Yeah.
I'm criticizing more the reaction to it and making it into something that was not difficult. Right. Mm-hmm. It was not a difficult feat for those, female astronauts. Go ahead.
Have you ever had a deeply moving experience on Earth about anything? You don't have to say what it was.
All the time.
So we have deeply moving experiences without going to space.
Right.
Why would people find it so critical or why would they feel the need to criticize somebody for having a deeply moving experience about being that high?
Well, and if that was a topic, like if I went skydiving, right?
Yeah, that would scare me.
I pushed on the limits of safety. I was anxious about it, and when I came back down into safety, I would have one of those moving experiences.
Yeah, I would kiss the ground
for sure,
like she did.
Yes. Just a thrill ride. Just a thrill ride. So I'm saying I'm not getting off of that because it wasn't as spectacular in the ways that they presented it as spectacular.
So do you think had the media not tried to make it almost like a historical feat?
Yes.
If it was just, hey, look how cool these people are going to space, you would have maybe
one of the
been
same.
More interested.
Exactly. I would be consistent with the Bezos trip, this trip, and the submarine people's trip. It's a bunch of people who could afford to take some thrilling thing, pushing on the boundaries of safety, and they got a rush out of going into places that they were scared of.
What about the idea that it's like gluttonous to spend that amount of money on a thrill ride when people have real problems?
You make money, you spend it any way you want, in any way. If I were there, I would be doing the same crap.
I said anybody else that could afford it, or Jeff Bezos came to them and said, I'll send you. They're not going to give two craps about someone else's opinion as to whether or not you should go.
No.
Looks like people are feeling some kind of way about
All right, let's see.
I feel like that one we're not even need right now.
Let's see.
But there was one before. I think Dennis was before that.
Give them the Nobel Peace Prize.
Set women back 100 years. That's pretty strong.
Well,
stance.
But it's the popular feeling. I don't think this caused it, but I think people are so eager to attribute things to women in that condescending way that it'll be out of the news cycle next week. It was not big enough
Right.
to stay around. And so, yeah, it did. I don't think there's going to be a downside for women in general. Let's see. No moped 19 in space. Using the term
Moped 19?
yes.
I've
Yes.
not heard of that.
I coined that the other day.
Oh, did you?
I changed something that I couldn't say
that's
into
right.
something.
Moped. I do
19.
remember that now. Okay.
Okay, Dennis says I give way more credit to the guys who squirrel suit skydive. It's like driving to Wally World to find out the park was closed, then turning around. The worst podcast on the internet, chickens. Okay. Anyway, so you let off with that story about it, and like I said, I think we've said.
Oh, I know why because we didn't read their
Oh,
above comment.
So anyway, that got that out of the way. There's not much more to add to it. Go them. Hope you had fun.
It was, to me, this was just another example of just how opinionated and hateful we can be. And it was so ironic that
We are.
Which was so interesting that Katy Perry said this whole thing made her feel so connected to love. And all she got for it was hate.
It's annoying, right? Your friend, right? Your friend comes over and they just did a CrossFit expedition, right? And they went off into the jungle and they did CrossFit for 5 days. They come back to you and say, this CrossFit thing was life-changing. You're annoyed because they're going to come off of their high. They're going to know it's something that they enjoyed deeply, but it wasn't life-changing. The standard of what is life-changing, right? You're
How do you know it wasn't?
It's over dramatic. There's nothing. I wish we had a life-changing standard, but we don't.
Have you ever done anything that you would consider life-changing?
Measured after as if in your life changed because of it, then sure, there's some things that had consequential things and motivated and took me to a different level for sure. It was exhilarating, right? But using the word life-changing, I'd set on my calendar, I would say, I will talk to you in 4 months. I want you to tell me all of the things that changed in life. And then you can say, if I go to my CrossFit expedition, this is what I can expect, how life. Chances are Katy Perry's going to go on tour. She's going to do all her normal stuff. We're going to check back with her and find out what changed in her life. And she's going to be like, oh, I just have memories.
What if not? What if not?
Fine.
Okay, would you consider this? Let's say her experience, in order to process that, she wrote a song. Let's say, because she's a pop star, let's say she wrote a song about it that became such a huge hit. It changed her life. Would you count that?
No, because it was inspiring and motivating.
Life-changing.
But nothing is going to change. Now, here would be an example. She comes down and she says, this was life-changing. I'm going to take all of my
money
wealth
and
I am going to build a space tether, like a space elevator. I'm going to drill. I'm in love with space so much. I'm going to travel beyond the moon. I'm going to be one of the first people that are on one of the Mars cruisers that would be life-changing because it deviated what she's doing now into something. Let's not belabor this. It's BS. It's over dramatic and it's annoying, just like the CrossFit example.
What if like a celebrity went into space, and they came back and they're like, man, this taught me just how insignificant the things I thought were important are. And I'm giving up. I don't want to be a celebrity anymore. I'm going to go and live a quiet life. And
yeah, life altering. I'd have respect for that.
Life changing.
But it was a dramatic. First, it was a dramatic presentation, right?
A dramatic and what it is, presentation,
and then a dramatic exit interview. And most of us are just annoyed because you said life changing, but you meant a different word. Not life changing. Maybe inspirational. Maybe something you remember in your memories, and it was pretty cool. But it wasn't life-changing. Yeah.
And the whole first all-female crew.
You keep saying it just to piss me off, don't you?
Because it ticked me off. Like, it wasn't the first all-female crew. And then they said, okay, the first all-female crew in so many years. And that, I think, started the whole hate towards them. Like when they say, oh, it's set females back. It's doing this. It's giving females a bad name. It's whatever. Like, I don't think anybody who went on that trip meant to do that. I think that was put on them. It made them look bad.
Well, culture is really pissed off about the picking certain either races or genders or things and then slamming it in your face as it's supposed to be something special. It's like all black cast is supposed to mean something. All it means to me is I'm annoyed that you put something in my face, tried to make it special, right? And it's not special.
Which was causing a divide by doing so.
It's exactly right. So we're all annoyed with that whole, I'm going to posture something that's supposed to be virtuous. And there's no virtue actually in it when you think about it.
And that, to me, I think is the biggest shame of all of this, is it didn't have to be something that stirred up so much hate, but they did something that was meaningful and cool to them. And because of, not to hate on the media again, but because of what was put on them, now they got hate.
Yeah.
And I think we see that
if you take another group, let's just say that we take a Star Cruiser and we put all Jewish men on it, right? Are there some people like, what's the freaking point of that? Did their Jewishness help them get to the stars faster? Like, why Jewish people? It's cliche and it's cheesy to do that.
Yeah.
Versus the top scientists got put on a Star Cruiser. And that makes sense because they're like, oh, science people doing science stuff, that makes sense. But to take like an all monkey crew to space would be like, that's stupid. Like, why would you do that?
Okay. Would you still go? It's funded for you. You can go to space. But they're like, we're taking all, what's your nationality? Hungarian. It's all Hungarian descendant.
It'd be
people.
stupid.
Would you go? Would you go? Would you
Yes.
say, I'm not part of this malarkey if that's how you're going to promote this?
But my rebellious spirit would want me to get on the all-female crew just to F up their numbers, right? So if they're like the Jewish Star Troopers, I want to be on there so they could say all the Jewish people and Joe.
But if you knew, they said, no, it's just all Hungarian descent people.
Fine.
And everybody first,
listen,
would you go?
We're talking two things. We're talking systemic, right? And then we're talking criticism. I can both think that it is really cool what they did and really stupid what they did. From a cultural standpoint, if they would have been like a bunch of celebrities of all different stripes went up there, I'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool. And there's not a lot of stupid in there, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense to do it, but I can see why they did it. But it's those virtue things that they start slamming in your face. And we're just a little irritated about it, just like the CrossFit. I use CrossFit because everybody knows a CrossFit
people
person,
are douches.
and they're so annoying, right? And so like we're sick of it just because when they talk about it incessantly and you don't give a shit about it at all. So, but
very, very cool thing.
Yes.
Unfortunately was painted in a uncool light.
Exactly.
And don't come for me if you do CrossFit. I'm mostly kidding. Mostly.
That was backtracking right there. I'm still equally annoyed with CrossFit.
I know. I'm sure there are people who do CrossFit that are lovely people, but I have also met people who do CrossFit that are just the douchiest people. And it is like, oh my God, I can't with you. I can't.
All right, next topic. I don't want to talk about Blue Origin anymore. Even though I love space. I love space. And
you were feeling
it's a mockery of it. So here's the and I'm perpetuating this conversation and I hate that. So the one thing I like about it is that if we make it so easy to do space, the likelihood that space keeps advancing because they get more companies get involved and the technologies and the people that innovated this stuff have a chance to then teach other companies to get in. And then would you go on a 7-day orbit cruise, right? You get in a ship and it just goes around the earth, and just like you were on a cruise ship, you're on a vacation that's on the barrier between space and atmosphere. I would do it. I think that's pretty cool. But the more people do it, the more funding, it becomes like the flat screen TV that used to cost $10,000. So a trip up to space now costs $25 million, but in the future, it might be $20,000 like a cruise would be.
But wouldn't you love to go back in time, get in your time machine, go way back in time before we barely even have an airplane, and you tell people one day you're going to go to space like you go to the grocery store?
I am not going to waste a time machine trip on telling people about space.
I would go back in time and say,
listen, we're
going to go to space as simply as we run to the grocery store.
No, There are so many cool things you could do with the utility of going back in time and just whisper, like feeling smarter than everybody else by telling them technologies they haven't seen yet. There's no value in it. I mean, what happens if you go back, tell somebody about it, and they beat somebody today to the punch, and you unravel the space-time continuum and ruin all of everything when you get back? You screwed it up. So don't use it for that. Now, if you take information and bring it back with you and use that information to that nobody knows about, like Biff did in Back to the Future, do that. Gamble, use a bet, slide yourself the betting card, do that. But
do you know who Nate Bargatze is? He's a comedian.
I don't think so.
Oh, you might know him to see him. He's so funny. He's really sort of popular right now. But he has a whole bit about if he went back in time and he had to prove to people in the past that he was a time traveler from the future. He's like, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I know enough. He's like, oh, hey, we have the cell phones now. They're things that you could just take with you. It's just a phone on you. And they're like, well, how does that work? I don't know.
Here's what really
I don't know enough about anything.
You go back, you tell somebody that, they say, Constable, and they take you and they put you in a metal box in a mental institution, and you die. Or you go even further back and they're like, Rabbi, and then they put you on a stake. I don't know if rabbis burn people to stake, but they take you and they light you on fire because now you're a demon. So yeah, bad plan, zero upside.
Or I don't know what century this was or what year this was, but you know what they did to women that they thought were losing their mind?
They put them in a rocket ship and let them come down from space?
No.
What they do?
They thought they could treat crazy women by having them orgasm.
I got nothing to say to that.
Might not be a bad time period to visit. I'm just saying.
So that was a medical procedure.
Lock you up, burn you at the stake, or
orgasm you.
Here's what she needs to help her. They call it, I can't think of the word, but it was a word for like being insane.
Yeah, and just with that in mind, I mean, you paint the history of women and you think they've suffered throughout history, but this is proof that they didn't suffer as much as some might claim.
No, you can go back in time and see a woman that like can't vote or was burned at the stake and be like, don't worry, one day you're going to go to space. People will hate your reaction about it.
They're going to say, what's space? Can't go there. Can't go there. All right, let's
hysteria.
See.
Thank you, Dennis. If you were diagnosed with hysteria as a woman, they thought you just needed a good O.
Good O.
I mean, there's probably some logic behind that. I'm just saying. I don't know. I'm no doctor. But...
All right, let's move on from this because I hate this topic now. What's next? What else are you dealing with? When you're in the driver's seat, come up with something.
Oh my God, I had a couple different ones. This is kind of silly, but I feel like people maybe can relate, or at the very least, offer me some advice. This might be news to you, Joe.
Okay.
Newsflash. I'm a loud talker. I always have been. I don't know why. Actually, that's not true. I have some theories as to why I'm a loud talker. I just am. And I get hate for that sometimes. It's not something I feel like I can control all the time. It just happens. And what's funny is I've even several years ago, I even had my ears checked. I used to work for a chiropractor and he did like this. You ever do like the tuning fork sort of, and they put it on your head? Have you ever done that? Mm-mm. So he had it was basically a tuning fork, and he hits it and he puts it on my head, and I have to say which ear I hear vibrations in, and I couldn't hear it in one. And he's like, maybe that's something. It may not be, but maybe go see an ENT, see what they think. So I did. They did the whole clean out your ears. I did a hearing test with the beeps and where I heard it. And diagnosis is hearing is totally fine. There is no hearing loss. I'm just loud. And I'm wondering if people relate to this and have gotten hate for this. And if so, is there something people do to stifle that? Or should you say, screw it, you can handle it?
Well, I got a proper response to this. Let me take the mail call. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So
should we have that open if
no,
people are calling?
Oh, okay. I got it over here. So number one is you paired up perfectly with me because I think you're a normal talker because I have no hearing
Right.
whatsoever. So you're just regular.
We're
to
meant
me.
to be.
But different people. Okay. I feel that you are a projectionist, right? So you project your voice because people listen to you. You talk into microphones a lot, and that is your gift. So let's just say a football player came in here and he's big and strong and fast.
Yeah.
And he's like, I get a lot of hate because I'm a fast runner. I'm like, no, that is your skill set. That's what you were blessed with. You should learn to use that to be able to make yourself prosperous. I wouldn't condemn you or make fun of you. I wouldn't send him to the doctors to see if they can make him run slower so that he fits in and is like other people. So why would I take a skill set of somebody who projects their voice and is good at reaching people, right?
See, and that's kind of what, like, every time I hear somebody say, like, why are you yelling? We're right here. I always say, look, I am the only girl. I have brothers. I had to be loud. I did 7 years of cheerleading where you're taught to be loud. I did 6 years maybe of choir where you're taught to project. I married a man who's hard of hearing, and I work with 2 men who are hard of hearing my entire life. Oh, and of course, I've worked in radio and public speaking. Communications major, public speaking. You're taught to project. I was like, my whole life I've been training to be loud. And I think a very animated person.
Anytime you are just not regular, like you are above status quo in something, the regular people will try to pull you into being more normal. And you have the choice. If the pressure means culture tries to reach a homeostasis. The people that are on the fringes where they're different in ways, they get condemnation. And it's almost has to be that way to bring the standard to a balance. So you just have to know that that's your skill set. Nobody wants you to talk regular. You would give up all of your genius because that's a skill that you learned and practiced and whatever. Don't ever give that up, no matter what the idiots out there think.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I even had a situation one time because I usually say I think I'm loud because I'm animated. Like especially when I'm amped about something, that's when I get loud. And the only reason I even know I'm yelling is I will become like winded and I get out of breath. And I went, oh, this isn't normal breathing. I'm clearly yelling and I'm wearing myself out. And that's my only cue. Well, one time I was in a very serious situation. I was a teenager, fairly new driver. This is going to make me sound dumb, but long story short, it was late at night and I may have turned down the off-ramp of the freeway on 680. Just was zoned out, went right down the 680 off-ramp off of Western Reserve Road, and a semi-truck was coming. And thank God I got out of the way. I got turned around. I got off the highway and I was like, and I was so freaked out. I went home. I woke my mom up. I'm obviously like, I'm never driving again. I just almost died, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh my God, be quiet. Calm down. I'm like, of all situations, I will not quiet down. I just almost died. So I think even that, I'm like, why do people try to stifle how loud I am? I can't help it. And is this something I should actively be
let me give you some advice here. Stop apologizing. When you hear it, don't feel the need to somehow serve people by being different. I want you to get the opposite. I want you to get really cocky about your ability, right? And so when someone says dumb shit to you about how you should be different, you give them double middle fingers and you do not apologize. If I hear you apologize for being loud ever again, I'm holding you to this moment.
Really?
You got to promise. Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of the situation. I did
that
one time. My dad fairly often throughout my life has said, stop yelling, we're right here kind of thing. And he did it one time as an adult and I'm home and I was like, here's the thing. I'm in my own house. I am a grown up. This is my house and I'll talk as loud as I want because I can't help it.
I run with a guy on a regular basis. He's got me in the height department and he's an accomplished runner. His stride is amazing. Mine's not. Right. So when we're running and we're having a conversation, I have to run faster to keep up with him. How annoying would it be if I'm like, run slower? Right.
Yeah.
It's the substandard. The people aren't doing it as well need to come up to you, not the other way around. So I end up running probably 2 marathons in the time that he would run 1 marathon, trying to keep up with his ass because he's good at it, better at me than I am.
Like maybe everyone else just needs to speak up a bit.
Exactly.
That's right.
All right, let's see. What did we miss?
Doreen's supportive.
Let's see. Isaac's Clam. Screw it. Be loud and proud. You don't sound loud on this end. See?
Good.
Let's see.
Thanks, Doreen.
And then Dennis said, just turn the mic down to 3 decibels. Yeah, I just did.
Seriously? Did you?
No.
Sometimes I'll watch these back, and if I get too loud, the mic does like freak out a little bit. So hopefully people can hear. Joe, in both love and war and politics, so many forget the whisper is more impactful than the rebel yell.
That, from a philosophy standpoint, that is absolutely true. I've had teachers, my wife being one of them, that impact that you have on kids. That if you scream, they just be desensitized to the loudness.
Yeah.
But when you whisper, they lower their hearing down to hear you, and they are more intentional about what you have to say. So it's not one of those things like if you were to take your having an ability to do something and use it as a tool in the right deals, knowing when a whisper is necessary. I'm not saying go out there and be loud everywhere because that's who you are. Just like I don't think the football player who runs, a 40-yard dash in 1 second should run everywhere.
Yeah.
But when it's time to flex what you do, don't feel
like
guilty
in a
about it.
restaurant, in a movie theater,
Exactly.
I'm obviously gonna quiet down.
Yeah, right.
But if I'm not,
exactly.
I know the social cues at least.
Heck yeah. But long and short, you present well. You don't have to work on that at all.
Thank you. There's a couple above Jerry too that looked interesting. On the upside, you probably never have to repeat yourself.
That's true. I've had the same issue, worked with someone hard of hearing for years, was a musician in a band for years. Work has me doing trade shows with thousands of people in arenas. Went through all the tests as you have, and was told by a doctor there are less than 5% of people that have 2 tones, a loud projecting normal tone or an intentional soft tone. Was told it is something, as Joe said, not something you can control, and just don't be annoyed by it. You are who you are. See, that is the overall
Thank you, Jerry.
That we make culture better when we are more accommodating to people who are different in the proper ways, right?
Yeah.
Would you feel insulted if I made you feel like you had a handicap because you talked loud? Or I made you think that, hey, you're a woman, so let's handicap you and say, look, the woman went on the rocket ship. Isn't that interesting and cool? I'm not going to, okay.
Yeah.
Conversation.
And I think maybe my fear is I have been in situations where someone else was speaking too loudly to be socially acceptable. Like we said, there are like restaurants and places like that where someone else that they weren't yelling. They just maybe had a loud voice, got loud, and it was embarrassing. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like weird like that.
Phone line person, you're on.
It's Luke.
Hi,
you
Luke.
guys are talking to a person who is cursed with being too loud.
Aww.
He's loud?
Joe can't hear anything, but he can hear me at all times. Is that true, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Joe has just said he's loud. He didn't even know.
You're just normal to me.
I don't even think first off, my voice carries you wouldn't believe, right? I don't know if it's the tone, I don't know if it's deep, I don't know what it is, but dude, it projects, right? And I've had my hearing checked, it's fine. I am just a loud person, and that is just the way it is, and that's how some people are, right?
Loud and proud.
So you said, Kelly, you can control it.
And well, in some situations, yeah. Like if I'm in a restaurant or I'm in a public place that it's not socially acceptable to speak at a normal volume, then yeah, I can whisper, I can bring it down. But in my everyday talking, especially if I'm amped about something, it just gets louder and louder and louder.
Yeah, oh yeah. But my problem is I'll be in a movie theater or I'll be in church and I'll be whispering to start. But if we continue the conversation, my natural progression is to get louder and louder and louder back to my normal tone of almost just being too loud.
Oh,
That's
you're the
problem.
awkward guy that people glance at why is he so loud?
Oh, and I get the dirtiest looks from my wife everywhere we go because I get, why are you being so loud? I'm not being loud. You're being quiet. So trust. Trust me, I understand the curse. I mean, Joe, do you consider yourself quiet or loud?
I think I'm loud.
Do you think you're loud?
I do.
I don't. You're not loud at all.
I don't know if I've ever seen you get loud. Maybe if you were yelling about something, but not like talking loudly.
I feel like, again, like when I'm on the radio and I'm really passionate about something and I've talked about it for a while, I feel like out of breath because I know that I went.
Yeah, you get that winded feeling.
So I know when I'm being loud. Yeah.
Hmm.
But the more passionate you get about something, the louder you go and the higher your octaves go.
You get amped about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kelin, have you ever seen Joe get angry?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, it's my favorite. He goes like he's just, he's normally real calm, real reserved. When he gets pissed, he goes, and it's fantastic.
But when you saw it, was he loud? I don't know.
He was. It was at one of our movie nights where we had his real expensive projector up, and a kid went where you weren't supposed to go and like tripped on the wire. I think he knocked the projector over. Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. And Joe went loud. He went crazy. His little 5'8" frame, or however tall he is, was moving around real fast. He was all worried about it. Oh, and Isaac and I are just sitting there laughing because this is like, oh, look at him go. He's so mad.
See, one good thing in my favor for being a woman, and maybe it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a woman, I just thought so. I think you try to like, with me, like I think you look like you're trying not to lose it.
Yeah.
But I could tell I'm like, if I were a man, he would not be like.
Well, I'm a fighter, so I like to punch things that irritate me, and you've never been punched, so either I control myself properly, or
but
you
even
can give me reason
like if you're not irritated with me, but maybe about something else, and you're telling me, I feel like you're still like, I can't scare Kelin, so I've got to try to stop.
That's my skill set is that I have
Kelin looks scared. I better rein it in a bit, but I don't know if I've ever heard you get loud though.
When I lose it, I freaking lose it. I mean, lose it.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely loud, screaming, out of my mind, lose it. Like and I'm a big guy, and I know it's terrifying for people around me because I mean, lose it.
There's been a couple times I got enraged and like lost my voice, like literally strained my vocal cords from just screaming obscenities. Like that to me that's when I get rage. Like I'm not angry, I'm rage. I can't calm down. I can't focus. It just comes out. And then after a few minutes, I'm like, wow, I was a total psychopath. Just then.
Oh yeah.
All right, Luke.
I do that.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll flip out, and then as soon as I calm down, I'm like, okay, now I got to figure out how to get even with the person I'm mad at. It's a bad. I probably need to talk to somebody. Talk to somebody.
Need therapy.
Probably. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
All right, thanks, Luke.
Yeah, buddy. See you guys. Bye.
All right, 330-595-1600 if you want to get on the phone lines as well. I feel like this is a venting session. This is pretty good for us. Dennis said you're the first female loud talker host at Youngstown Studio.
That's right.
Every time a woman does something new, she gets to wear a ribbon on her for the remainder. So you could look like a 5-star general with all the ribbons you could accumulate for being the first woman to, maybe we've never had an angry person that's a female in front of the mic. So do
really,
like the Guinness Book of World Records, would you like to be the first angry talker at Youngstown Studio?
Yes.
That is a woman. Do it.
All right. Here's something I experienced this morning. It ticks me off.
Okay.
I'm probably going to get hate for it because we get hate for everything. Listen, I've mentioned this before, but let me reiterate. I cannot stand the smell of marijuana anymore. I don't know what changed. I don't know what they've done to it. I am not a marijuana smoker, so I don't know much about it. But I know that when I smell that god-awful skunk roadkill smell, I am like, there has got to be something that can be done to stifle this stench. And on my way to work this morning, I'm driving behind a car that I can tell is smoking inside, and I can smell it. And I just want to be like, you idiots. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, It's probably, even if it's legal, it's probably illegal to do while driving. Is it?
Oh, for sure.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, are they that dumb and unaware that they don't know the smell is so potent? You can smell it inside of another vehicle. You don't even have to be outside. I can smell your car from inside my car, which one is disgusting. But two, now I'm angered that you're so dumb that you don't know you're going to get pulled over. Like, why don't you drink and drive and hold your bottle of liquor right out the window while you do it? Just wave it in the air so cops can see you, because that's basically what you're doing when you smoke in your car and drive around like that.
All right. So let me push back on that.
Yep.
So you don't like the smell. Okay.
Hate the smell.
So is it the responsibility of the person to make sure you don't inflict your smell on people who might not like the smell of marijuana?
Yes.
Okay. do you wear perfume?
Yes.
And if if I don't like the smell of your perfume, can I tell you that you should not wear or let a smell emanate from your being that displeases me?
Honestly, if I was around someone and they were like, your scent is really bothering me, I don't want to wear something that to someone else stink. Like I'd be like, oh, noted. Not wearing that around you again.
And guys, if I go up to Dillard's and I pull out the Drakkar demo and I stink myself up good, right? Yeah. Regardless if it's palatable to other people,
spray.
If somebody doesn't like, if I put it on thick and make sure everybody in the room smells me, or if what was that Old Spice? Like, the dad puts on the post-shave Old Spice, and the seat smells like it when they leave, and it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have the right to inflict smells on other people? I don't care if it's potentially good smells like colognes or perfumes. I don't care if it's marijuana that's on your clothes and clinging to you as you're talking or whatever. Or maybe you soiled yourself and peed in your pants and you smell of urine and defecation as you're walking around.
Oh,
do you have the right to inflict the smell on other people that they might not like?
You have the right, probably. Should you? But I mean, I'm sure a lot of those people, I mean, we've been in contact with people that you can tell when they were there and they're not even there anymore. You could be like, oh, I can tell that's so-and-so's scent or cologne or perfume or whatever. And I'm sure they've gone nose blind to it, that if it's something you're around so often, you don't even smell it on you. So it may not be done on purpose.
But the thing we're lacking in culture is consideration for other people. And we have so many narcissists that are running around only thinking about themselves. What they do and how it affects other people is like, they don't really give two shits. So the more expressions of that means that the rest of us are just victims of what people feel like doing. So it's not like I can just say, hey, that perfume, it's a little overwhelming. I don't like the scent. Can you stop wearing it? Right. You would be a little offended if you'd want to know it, but that would hurt your feelings a little bit. So I'd how dare I?
Oh no, but I'd say, well, I certainly don't want someone to feel that way when I'm around. But even like in this instance with the marijuana in the car, not only are you annoying me because I don't like the smell, but you're breaking the law. You're doing something that is dangerous. And I
don't know, wearing Drakkar in the mall is probably illegal. I mean, the demonstration units were not there, so I could load up and I didn't want to buy the things. So, but I see your point. But as we get less and less considerate, and it's not even an attribute that people carry around as an actual virtue, there's going to be more things that get thrust on you that you don't really like, and you're just going to have to tolerate it. So maybe in the future, the marijuana smell, they'll find a way to genetically remove it so that when you burn it, it doesn't smell like that. But they could do the same.
I mean, we could send people to space.
Yes.
But we can't make that stuff smell better.
I don't know.
Gotta be a way.
From a chemical standpoint, I don't know if that's the good stuff in it that's making it smell like that. I don't know.
Well, I feel like it's gotten worse. So something changed. It always sort of smelled like a skunk to me, but now it's like a dead skunk to me. Like it's
probably really good stuff then. Like really good.
I don't know.
High
if
quality.
anybody knows, like, is it the worse it smells, the better it is?
Maybe.
I don't even know. Dennis says it's not that they don't know, they don't care.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's why it would be useless to even share that with them, because they're going to be like, F you. Like, I don't care if you don't like it. Deal with it. And and so then it ups it. So once I see that nobody cares about my input and whether or not people like something, I'm like, F it, I'm just going to do my thing. And then the world just becomes less and less considerate. And it's a downward spiral of everybody who's just annoyed, whether it be CrossFit or Drakkar Cologne, right? Everybody's just annoyed with everyone else. And then
Axe body spray. Don't say that at a high school track meet. I don't know what he was referring to. Dennis, don't say what at a high school track meet. Don't say, I don't know. But yeah, I remember years ago when Axe body spray first came out, I was a student at YSU and I was in like Kilcully, the big sort of like open student, whatever. And Axe body spray representatives were on campus handing out samples of Axe body spray. Yeah. Except the dumb idiot college guys that thought it'd be funny to just start spraying it all over the room and everywhere. And I could have strangled them. I was so mad. It was awful. It was like giving people headaches. And I'm just like, why? Why are we this way? And you think because they're dumb kids, but it's not. You don't have to be a dumb kid to do dumb stuff like that. But I always think of that now. Anytime I see somebody with Axe body spray, I'm like, don't
Does it smell bad? I don't think I know what that smells like.
In small doses, it's probably okay.
Okay.
But if you overdo it, I don't care for it. Okay. It may have changed. It may have changed. I mean, this would have been like, I don't know, early 2000s. So it might be different. And no offense to anyone that loves Axe body spray. Maybe you use a reasonable amount of it.
I can see it like if you have young, teens and young adults, they smell badly anyway. And Axe might do some covering up of bad body odors or whatever. So I could see that. I'd prefer to smell something that's a little whatever versus.
Yeah. Like people that, I've seen people that were smokers and they would go outside, have a cigarette, and then spray themselves with their body spray, thinking they're hiding the cigarette smell. And I'm like, all you did is make like a potpourri of ashtray and vanilla. Like, it's awful. I used to work with someone that would do that. And I almost wanted to be like, I would rather you just not try. If you're going to come in smelling like a cigarette, let that be the only thing I'm smelling, not cigarette and vanilla or cigarette flowers. Like, it's not helping. You're just making a new awful stench. And yeah, people, I think, I don't know if it's the nose blind or dumb. They think that's doing something. Dennis says, don't tell someone you don't like their scent at a high school track meet. Is that something I missed?
I have no idea. Must be a thing.
Did we miss something, Dennis? Unless that's the kid who got stabbed.
I don't think that was about sense.
No,
I think he was not supposed to. I don't think he was supposed to be there at the track meet.
Yeah.
And somebody forcibly tried to get him to move, and then he got stabbed.
You want to talk about that?
Do it.
Are we allowed to say stabbed on YouTube?
Stabbed. If you change it, just
punctured, poked aggressively, lethally poked.
Lethal's probably not a good one either.
Oh God, you can't say anything in this day and age.
Yeah.
All right. So most people, I think, have heard of this. There was a high school track meet. A student, I think he was sitting under the tent of the opposite team. They had a tent set up. Student came over, said, get out of here, get out from under this tent. And I guess the kid said, well, too bad, leave me alone, touch me and see what happens, or something along those lines. And he pulled out a stabby thing.
But he did touch him. He tried to forcibly remove this guy.
See, I did not hear about that.
Yeah, he touched him.
Did he?
He touched him.
What, like he tried to like grab his arm, pull him
I don't know.
What?
I don't know, but allegedly he touched him, and then the other kid pulled a knife out of his backpack and did the stab thing.
And aggressively poked him in the chest.
With a metal object, yes.
What a psycho. I'm sorry. I have recently been seeing that there have been GoFundMes and people raising money to pay this kid's bail because he is unjustly in prison. Am I missing something?
No.
Have we lost our minds that badly?
No, just like the women thing, where they are trying to hold on to a victim mentality. They try to make victims out of the people who should not be in that category. What's the dude who shot the CEO?
Oh, Luigi.
Yeah,
something?
make him into a hero, right?
Yeah.
The kid that obviously went right to killing someone for an altercation.
Who not only was supposedly self-defense, he touched me. Why did you have that on you in the first place?
But
clearly
that's not even a rule.
You had this.
That is not a rule. Okay, so it's not like if I come up to you and punch you, you could just take liberties to unalive me. Like that's not how this works.
That's insane.
It's a proportional. If I punch you and you punch me, that's just an altercation. I didn't, rise it up to the level where I thought grabbing his arm, he would not feel that his life is being threatened, and he can't use a level of defense on that unalives somebody.
Yeah. And the fact that, one, this kid was deranged enough to do it is just, wow. But then it gets worse as to there are people in the public that are supporting him.
For sure.
If that doesn't tell you how far gone off the deep end we have become in this country, I don't know what does.
We've been doing this show here for a couple months, and I've told you that culture is dead and we are on the slow spiral to destruction because of what we're talking.
Yeah.
And every day you get a reminder that what I said is true. And unless something huge happens that puts everybody in line, this is that slow destruction you're going to see in real slow motion.
And I'm even trying to, I think that is exactly what Dennis was talking about. I'm even trying to sort of devil's advocate, like, am I missing something? Is there maybe something was unjust? Maybe this was self-defense. What happened? But they even said that he said, touch me and see what happens. So it wasn't even like, oh my gosh, something happened and I felt the need to defend myself. It was, I threatened you. He almost like invited this. He almost knew that no matter what you do to me, it could be you flick my arm, you grab my arm, you hit me, whatever you do, I'm timesing it by 1,000 and I'm ready to go.
Yep.
So that to me is not self-defense in any means. And again, even if it was, at what point could he have just hit him back, yelled for help, got in a scuffle? And no, you go to that extent is just, and if anyone else knows something I'm missing, by all means, you can tell me why people felt like it was unfair to have this kid locked up.
Well, it's that trend. Even this MS-13 terrorist guy that got deported, and he has a whole host of people who want to bring this guy back.
Yeah.
Right. It started with the George Floyd and all of these victim narratives trying to make something out of something it's not.
Yeah.
Because it's a story that they want to tell. And even if they don't have the proper nouns and verbs for the story, they will concoct it anyway, because that is the level that they want to be true.
Like,
right?
what are they even? I've not read a lot of the articles in favor of bringing him back. I've only heard as to why he shouldn't be here. Why? Why would somebody say, oh, this was wrong, he should have never been?
Well, the narrative is that Donald Trump was going to come in and take families and break them up and send them back to countries. And so that's the version of the story that they wanted. They've already bought into this, like they were waiting for one of those to happen. It's like, oh, this guy's gone. His family's here, separated. Get him. Like, that's the one we were waiting for. And then it was like, oh, he was kind of a gangbanger.
Oh, he murdered a woman.
We're kind of already bought into the whole separating a family, and we want that one. There's some prickly parts of this story now, but then the prickly parts got more than he broke up a family. But they're bought into it.
And then they're like,
point.
well, there is no due process, and where's the justice?
Yeah.
And having him go. And then I see people like Trump and his press secretary like, are you kidding me? Here's a picture of the woman he brutally murdered, and where's the outcry for that? But should he have been?
They used to have this ability that they would take a story that if you knew the whole thing, there's no way a reasonable person could be on that side of the argument. They used to be able to control that narrative. They still do it, but now we get information from all sides. So if, for instance, like if the George Floyd stuff happened and he was, he was a drug addict, had heart conditions, just did theft, the public, knowing what he was before that happened, would be like, oh, he's not as big a victim as, the media tried to make him into. Now we had access to that, and then half the people are like, that's the guy that you tried to make into a martyr of some kind. But when they buy into that storyline, they're desensitized to the fact that they're so wrong on so many levels, and it's only the the cult people who still buy into that narrative.
And it's a shame because they're hurting their own cause. There are instances, at least I saw online, so I don't know the whole story. I only saw videos where, yeah, I would say that officer used excessive force and that was really unnecessary. This I could see being a major outcry. But you stifle that by making something that isn't that come to light. And then it's like, like when we say calling someone a racist, calling someone a Nazi, takes away from when someone is actually a racist or Nazi. Now it's just,
yeah, we're desensitized to it because you say that every single time.
Yeah.
And then the real Nazi comes along and you can't even say it because
now
people won't even listen.
God forbid a police officer does use excessive force and unjustly harm someone, nobody bats an eye because you took instances that was not the situation and you made such a big deal out of it that now we're all just like,
Nobody
you're crying wolf again. Oh, it's this again. Yep. Dennis says the gaslighting is ridiculous.
Yep. And this strategy, they are wholly bought into. And that is why they lost the systemic. The Democrats really are in bad shape right now.
Yeah.
Because they're adopting everything that wholly majority of the people disagree with. And they lost all the institutional controls about, insulating them winning elections in spite of their messaging would never in a million years win elections if they didn't own all of the GMOs and have all that government money helping them. They're in really bad shape. And so it's going to take a reasonable Democrat to stop the craziness. It's going to take like a Fetterman or Bill Maher that's going to be like, hold on, this is dumb. Like everything we're doing here is really dumb. Yeah. And either we control the narrative and try to take back over media so that nobody can get messaging out. We control the laws so that if somebody says something like COVID doesn't work, that we can't just take them off of social platforms and control who can say what and whatever. Or else they're just done. They're just done.
Yeah. Julie says, if you're talking about Garcia, he is not a criminal, nor was he. He had protected status. Trump admin admitted to erroneously deporting him. Add to that, the Supreme Court said, bring him back.
All right. Point for point. Can you respond to that?
If you're talking about Garcia, which I think is who we're talking about.
He was a criminal. Number one, he was illegally in the country, which means he did something illegal. And so he is a criminal. Whether or not he
was a violent criminal
where he beat somebody or what, regardless, on 100% certainty, he was in the country illegally, meaning that he was a criminal.
So what is protected status? He had protected status.
So there was a deportation order that some judge had issued, and he was protected from being deported from that order.
So it's not like he came here under an understanding that he could be here. It's I illegally came and then quickly said, protect me.
Exactly. So he got a protected status where he couldn't be deported depending on what that judge established.
Okay. Trump admin admitted to erroneously deporting him.
No, there was an erroneous part. I'll have to look and see what the error, but it was a filing error. It wasn't that he was erroneously deported. The filing error, what happened with I think it was a Democrat judge. There was an error that made in filing with that Democrat judge, and that was the only error that happened. Oh. And then the Supreme Court, if you read what the Supreme Court said, it does not mean that they have to go and get him. They have to facilitate, right? And since he is a citizen of the country that we sent him to, and it was very flippant what the press secretary said, or Rubio said, or whoever was speaking at that time, said that we can't go into a country and kidnap someone. We can facilitate it. If the Venezuelans wants to give him back, we can facilitate it. But it's not an order to facilitate. It's order that is our obligation to facilitate.
So yesterday, the press secretary addressed the media again, and usually when I'm watching these things, I'm doing other things, so I'm catching bits and pieces. But she showed a picture of this woman, I think the name was Rachel, a victim that was brutally murdered by an M13 whatever gang. Right. Was she not talking about Garcia?
I don't know.
Because she said everybody wants to keep saying we deported this father and it was awful and we should have never. And she's like, and nobody is even acknowledging he is an illegal gang member who murdered someone.
So if you have a policy where you are taking people who are illegal in this country and has some kind of criminal record and you get rid of them, right? You don't afford those people. They're not citizens, so they don't get due process. They don't get something a citizen would have.
Yeah.
Right. And no district judge is going to get in the way. And I didn't do this case justice because I'm like you. I only heard in passing other commentary from other people, but it sounds like this is not a worthy character to try to make sure that he comes back to this country.
Yeah.
Right? If he's a criminal and he's in a gang, I don't care how much family he has. I don't really want him coming back. And that's not the guy you should be.
It feels like one side grabbing for straws.
But here's the thing. In this whole process of deportations, there are going to be elements in there. Wait for a real one. Don't waste up.
Right.
Don't waste it on this dude is obviously a pile of crap.
Show me the legal person who came legally, who has every right to be here, who is a law-abiding citizen that got mixed up in the mayhem.
Caught in the net.
Where's the outcry for that one?
Yes, I'll be with you on that one.
Yes. But if it's like, well, this guy was here illegally, he's a gang member, he possibly murdered someone, he's a bad guy, and there's outcry. Now nobody's listening to you when there should be outcry.
Yeah. But if we'll do the CEO murderer guy, we're taking a lot of feelings in this instead of making, thinking through it and be reasonable and trying to make it make sense. You don't support a guy, right? Killing from behind, unaliving from behind, right?
Yeah.
Just because you don't like him. You don't take a guy and because he was asked to move or somebody put hands on him, that he deserves to be stabbed.
Yeah. You can't say, oh, I've also been in a situation where the insurance company really ticked me off, so let me go unalive someone. That's insane.
Exactly.
Carter, I will never understand why liberals are more concerned about the criminals and not the victims.
Yeah, and it just, they're so bought in and so anti-Trump that they are digging for something to oppose. They're trying to make Trump look bad.
Yeah.
And so in their mind, they're like, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get him for this thing. And when it takes too long to get the thing, they start concocting the thing they want to happen. So if they can slide something that isn't in there, right?
They're almost like, I know what he's doing has got to be shady in some way. So let me find it.
Exactly.
But there may not be anything to find. Julie says he was being targeted by El Salvadorian gangs in El Salvador. That is why I protect his status. Why was he being targeted by
because
other gang members?
Like, no, Julie, do not invest in this guy. He is not a good person. He is a gang member and a violent offender. Like, that's the guy you're going to bat for. Like that makes no
actual
somebody
example of someone that
you can have empathy for.
Yeah.
Nobody has empathy for a gangbanger who's here illegally. Nobody wants him here. Don't buy it. That's a mistake, Julie.
Yeah. Did you see Biden speak last night?
I saw excerpts from it. Was it bad?
I missed it. I missed the whole thing. But again, to the point of, I think the Democrats are sort of, oh my God, what do we do? Let's have Biden speak. Carolyn Leavitt said something that was it was a little unnecessarily mean. I don't like when people are unnecessarily mean, regardless of the aisle they're on.
Can I be mean? I want to play that role today.
Yes.
Okay.
She was just like, oh, I can't believe Biden is speaking tonight at 9. Isn't that past his bedtime? I can't believe he's even coherent enough to speak. And I was like, listen, I get it. I get it, but you didn't have to say it like that. So I totally missed it. But the reason I bring up what she said is I kind of took it as, why is Biden speaking? And I saw like a little bit where he's like, oh, in the first 100 days, look at all the destruction he's caused so quickly. It's just insane to think about all the damage so far. And I'm just like, wow, they look desperate. They look they being the Democratic Party is really looking desperate lately. And I'm not saying that to hate on them. I'm saying that to be honest, that when we make martyrs out of criminals and we have someone that, like it or not, probably needs to just go and retire and maybe relax and not be addressing the American people right now, like, they look like they're getting a little desperate.
That was your weapon, wheeling out the corpse and then trying to convince people, the guy who doesn't know how to communicate anymore and doesn't have cognitive abilities, convince them that they're destroying Social Security when they're not destroying Social
they're
Security.
making cuts and the website is crashing now and nobody can get access to their checks. And I'm just like,
you need a very savvy marketing person to sell that idea.
Yeah.
Because it's been debunked and dispelled so often, right?
Yeah.
That if you take the guy that can barely talk and have him make that pitch, like I don't even bother responding to it because he didn't do enough for his cause for it to be believable enough. I don't think there's one person out there that's like, oh, the corp said it. They must be destroying Social Security.
You know, I really need to talk to one of my best friends actually works for the local Social Security office. I'm going to pick her brain later and be like, hey, what have you been seeing? What have you been not seeing? What are some issues? That'll be for a later date and time. I'll report back.
Okay,
but,
we'll cover some of that Social Security and tariffs. We did too much on the tariffs. I didn't want to talk about that.
Gangs don't randomly target regular law-abiding citizens. I would
really,
that's why we're saying, you know, Julie was saying Garcia was targeted again. Like for what? How does the gang find you and your name and target you? Because you're minding your own business, living a good life.
Listen, we already know everything we need to know, whether or not somebody needs to be making the argument about something that nobody is arguing. He is a gangbanger, yes or no? Did he assault anybody? Yes or no? Is he here legally? Yes or no? Those three things, I checked my boxes. He's gone. I don't care about anything else. I don't care if he had a protective order the judge gave him. I don't care. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't care.
Carter says Biden was a disaster last night. Why the Democrats would put him out there, I don't understand, and is why they lost the election. That's what I'm like. I think they're so desperate that they're like, maybe they liked this guy. Let's try him. Let's try this person. Let's just keep making speeches.
Here's my theory. Back in June, July, when he dropped out of the race, they had a meeting with him and said, if you drop out, we will let you come on stage in January after Kamala is president, and we'll let you talk on March or April 15th, right on tax day, to talk about how awesome Kamala is. And he got in writing that he was going to be on stage on April 15th. And now he looked through his contract and said, I know Kamala didn't win, but I'm getting on stage. So that's what you
say
saw.
Something.
Absolutely.
How about, I don't know if you saw this. I just saw a headline, and again, haven't had a chance to look into it. Depending on the headline you read, there's two different wordings. Trump, I guess, took to social media and said the rat has been found. Have you heard about this? Somebody under Pete Hedgewith, one of his people.
The leaker. I did.
Leaker, yes, was leaking sensitive information. That's all I know. What was that about? Did you read that?
So yeah, they dismissed someone. I forget what department he was in, but they were taking internal information and leaking it to the press, right? And from the very first day, I knew Trump got hammered with leakers within his cabinet. And that's why he picked all of his own people, right? And fired as many people as he possibly can. Because if you're sharing strategical or what's happening next, and you have people within your administration, you know, giving information to your enemies on how they should fight against it or whatever, can't have that. So I'm thinking that there's probably more of those bureaucrats in there that just can't wait to tell people about it. But if they are on purpose, like here's what I would do. If I had somebody leaking, I would test everybody and give information that I only gave to one person, one at a time. And if that information gets out, I knew exactly who. I used to do this with companies, right? And when they would collect my information, I didn't want them selling my information to marketers. And so when I gave that out, I would put one little anomaly in my name. I would put a little spelling or a dash or whatever. And if I ever saw that dash, I knew who sold my information and to where. I could tell who leaked my information, even if they wouldn't.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Because it made me think about our conversation back when everybody was talking about the whole Signal debacle and information being.
If it was a setup to say,
yeah. As soon as I saw that, I went, could that have been on purpose?
Crossed my mind as well.
Yeah. I used to work with some people. I'm going to try to be as vague as possible. I had some coworkers that believed their office was bugged by the manager at the time, because they would be talking about things that were just like conversational, nothing of a big deal. It could have been like something they watched on TV that night or whatever. And then they would have their daily managerial meeting with the manager. And almost every time he would be like, oh, so how about that episode of something last night? Or, oh, so did you guys hear about this? And every time it was something they had just talked about. And it wasn't something like pop culture that anybody might have brought up.
Very
it was
specific.
very specific.
Okay.
And they were like, I'm telling you, he has bugged our office. And it got to the point where if they actually wanted to discuss something work related that they didn't want anyone to hear, they would leave the office and go in the hallway. And
cone of silence.
Yeah.
Love it.
And so I'm like, why would someone be so dumb as to give it away like that? Like, if you bugged a room because you're trying to, I don't know, I guess gather information about something.
Yep.
Why in God's name would you then bring up exactly what they said the day they said it?
Yeah.
Some people just aren't smart.
No.
This was El Salvador where he was targeted. Commonplace in El Salvador. His mother sent him here for his safety.
Well, he's
Like
safe. He's
Signal
behind bars. They can't get at him.
Yeah. And Julie said, like Signal Gate, like that. Yeah. I wonder.
Yep.
I wonder, could this now it was a different name, Caldwell or something like that. So maybe he had nothing to do with, Signal Gate. I don't know. But it is interesting that if they are concerned that there are people leaking information, could they have done something like this where there was enough importance to it to be a big deal, but not enough that anybody got hurt and anything was wildly detrimental from it, but they could find a leak. Ooh.
This is going to make a great movie in the future. If there is a director that takes on the Trump story and all of the, the Shakespearean saboteurs and the rats and the people leaking information to the enemies, like this is going to be a great crime story for sure.
I feel like this whole year, this whole administration and everything surrounding it needs to be something, a movie or something.
Another reason why this is a simulation. There is no way this stuff is happening in the world. It's not. This is a storyline that somebody took from a Tom Clancy novel, hybridized a bunch of really dramatic things happen, and they put us in the middle of it, looking at it, thinking, "Man, this is amazing."
Yeah, it's almost like, hey, we got to shake things up. Let's cause controversy over simple things.
Yeah,
like, can we make a murderer be painted in a good light? Can we?
And the boardroom like, never.
Yeah, like humans aren't that dumb. If you clearly murdered someone in cold blood, you're guilty. We can spin this so they're not. We can manipulate people into saying, "Oh, but
you don't have to manipulate people." We watched a movie about sharks being sucked up in tornadoes and like that passed. Like what would be people would love. That happened. I've never seen it either. But the fact that there's a 1, 2, 3 Sharknado 19 means that which doesn't take a whole lot for us to gravitate towards something absurd.
Could Sharknado happen? Could that happen if you had a tornado that strong over an ocean?
Are you really asking me that question?
Coincidentally had a bunch of sharks in one area at the time. Could you theoretically make a Sharknado?
Could something get sucked up in a tornado? Yes.
Yeah.
Could they go bite people as they're flying through the air? And
why not?
No.
Why not?
No.
Why not?
No.
They stop fighting because they are sucked up in a tornado.
They don't know what's going on. They can't see things. It would almost be like if you got put in a
perfect situation to want to start biting because they're scared and they're freaked out and they're grabbing things.
No. They're going to be. Their equilibrium's they can't see anything. They're out of the water. They're not going and biting people. They're going to flop around, hit the ground, and explode. That's it.
Okay. Equally as creepy of a movie that I think affected millennials on a level was Final Destination. Everybody talks about Final Destination movies and they don't want to be behind logging trucks anymore and all this idea of a freak accident. There's actually another Final Destination movie coming out too. What would you say is more possible, a Sharknado or some of those like extreme coincidences that death it was a perfect series of event that something accidentally unalived somebody.
Well, the scenarios and the way that they were unalived was believable. All of those we see those situations every day, and that's why they resonate with people, because the logging.
I mean, odds are slim, but not the logging.
Whether or not you could go around and be followed by death as it tries to take you, and everything seems to go wrong, it's really far fetched. It really is.
So you're saying Sharknado is more plausible?
No, not at all.
Then death following you and making a series of events happen?
There's not a spectrum here. Both of them are absurd to the same level of no.
Never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen. There's not death that follows you around. There's not sharks that can get sucked up and bite people. Neither of those are less or more believable. They're both just a no.
One of my favorite movie genres.
Yes.
You tell me plausible, not plausible.
Okay.
Exorcisms.
Okay.
So I love scary movies. The Exorcist is my favorite scary movie of all time. I think Al Pacino just recently did a new one that's similar. Plausible, not plausible?
Plausible.
Oh, that's plausible.
It's so plausible.
How so?
Chemicals in your body that make you...
so not an actual demon getting
No,
you.
it's not a demon.
I thought you were going to say demons can get you and possess your body.
No, we're in control of our body chemistry, and the chemicals that we're taking in our food and what we're exposed to in our environments are changing the brain chemistry and allowing us to create perceptions that aren't there. So you might, people that have bipolar disorder, or they have voices in their head telling them to do stuff. That's not a demon. We're calling it a demon, but it's their perceptions.
But yes, but I have heard or seen in other videos that when it comes to either someone just having a psychotic break or actual priests getting blessed to come perform an exorcism, there's criteria. There are certain things that have to be displayed before the Vatican will say, absolutely, this is possibly a demon-possessed person, rather than this is just a severely mentally ill person. Things like suddenly speaking in a language that you have never studied.
Like gibberish.
No, they said it has to be a language. Like, I understand they are speaking Hebrew, or they are speaking Italian, or they are speaking whatever, and they have never, ever learned it. I think one has to be something that they can't explain, like levitation or extreme strength or something. I don't know. I got to go back and rewatch this. But they said there are certain things that must be present before an actual exorcism, not just get a mental health expert in there and help this sick person. Plausible or not plausible?
Seems very fanciful and drummed and doctored up, until I'm in a room with someone and they start levitating, and I'm in the room and I can see that they're, someone I know that doesn't speak that language is like, so if
would you pee yourself if that happened? I would.
In real life? Heck yeah.
Heck yes, I would.
But do I trust anybody enough not to concoct a story for mind control or for culture control or whatever? And then I'm the only one who's seen it, but I can attribute anything I want to it. It's more likely that they take psychologically unstable people and they use them for the control of their followers or a good story, whatever. Fanciful, very low probability. And if the only thing that's really going to change my mind aren't the accounts and the data that somebody else collected, I want to see hard facts, right? Things that cannot be manipulated. And then I want to believe in stuff like that, but I just don't, because I got no data.
Yeah.
It'd be hard on that one. I would go flat earth and Sasquatch before I did exorcisms and demonic possession.
So you've done like ghost hunting before?
Yes.
Do you feel like you were looking for a ghost, or do you feel like you were looking for proof of other scientifically
I was fascinated with my own brain, and given the proper, like, if it's a different deal. So if you go into a ghost hunt and you have a person that knows the environment and they tell you stories, right? They tell you what happened and what his name, add some high resolution to your imagination.
Yeah.
And then you walk into a place that's already pretty creepy, having been told stories, already kind of open that you're about to experience something, deprive yourself of light and familiarity and whatever. So it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm sitting in the middle of a dark room by myself, right? And my eyes are kind of closed. I'm getting kind of tired. And I'm like, what if I fall asleep and like, I don't know where I'm at and I can't get out of this place and my flashlight doesn't work. And all of these fear issues started going through my head. Then my imagination started saying, oh, you're afraid a little bit? Here's a noise for you. And here's a this for you. And it starts imagining, or at least allowing my perceptions to let data in that wasn't before. Cause now it's on high alert. It's releasing chemicals that make me, my hearing be better than it was before, my vision to be better than it was before. And so what my brain did and the gymnastics it did to try to create what I was already looking for was off the charts. So if I would have seen something compared to the state before I came in there, I would have not seen it, heard it, touched it, whatever. So those phenomena are probably always happening, right? But because I was honed in on it, I was ready for it. It was delivered.
So you don't think ever that maybe you might find evidence of some other, like you've talked about other realms or other, sources of energy that we just aren't really privy to? Is it possible to be seeing stuff like that? Or
it's more believable to me that if we live in one multiverse and there's another multiverse that is in close proximity to the one that we're living in, so we're like 1 degree of separation from the next multiverse, and you happen to see something that is close enough to your multiverse, because remember, this is dimension, not time and space. So if you can peer into a different overlapping dimension, you might get visuals or energies or whatever from the multiverse that you're not currently in. And I would say that's most of the accounts of weird phenomenon is just interference. So you take 2 audio cables and there's a separation between the 2. Well, the audio cables are carrying the signal, but if they get too close and there's some frequency, you might have some leak out of one if there's not proper shielding over to the other. So who's to say the multiverses aren't properly shielded and you don't get leakage from multiverse down to the other one and you get eyes on something that you didn't really shouldn't have eyes on.
I know a woman one time, she's fascinating, and she has really interesting stories. We need to get her in here one day. But she was talking about how she sees things. And again, she's not one to claim to explain what it is. She's not going to say, I'm seeing a ghost, I'm seeing a dead person, I'm seeing whatever. But she's just like, here's what I see. I don't know what it is. And she said one time she was visiting a friend and kept visualizing this man, this very young man, boy. And she was like, I don't know if I'm thinking of somebody who has passed or what, but described them perfectly. To a T, was able to even sort of explain enough that what somebody said, her friend was like, I think you're talking about my son. This was just at somebody's home. They were hanging out and she's like, would you have a picture? And she showed him and she's like, that's the person I'm seeing. She's like, well, he's not dead. He's alive, but he was just here the other day and sitting where she was sitting. And she's like, I don't know if there is something in our energy fields or things we just haven't discovered yet that I can somehow pick up on somebody who was here, but they're not sitting here anymore because they just walked away.
100%.
Yeah, it sounds so cool.
There's an infinite number of you, right? In every decision you ever made making different decisions throughout. So if you were able to see all of the multi-dimensions that were stacked on one another, you are in every place that you could potentially be right now at the same time simultaneously. I think that your consciousness is traveling around with only one version of that, but it can be passed on those other multiverses. And again, because of the leakage, you can have a person, like I could have I couldn't do Abraham Lincoln, but I could have Trump sitting right there in one of the multiverses, right? So if I had vision on one of the passages of those multiverses, I could see Trump sitting in that office and say, versus somebody you might know, high potential of it being possible, but still you get to peek into that, or some people can peek into the other multiverses.
Is this a theory or you believe this?
I believe this.
Really?
Because it's a theory from what you could really live in and experience. Mathematically, it's a sure thing. So it's just pairing up like, well, what does that mean? If there's an infinite amount of, through quantum physics, it changes that we're just not, we have a linear time scale on how we perceive the world. What if you like put that in its head and you can be both live and dead, right? And it's not until there's an observer on the live dead. Yeah. Then we can't process the fact, how can we be both live and dead until we're measured?
Yeah.
Right. So it's meaningless in what we can do with that.
Like Schrodinger's cat. There's a cat in a box. Yes. It's both alive and dead.
Yes. Until there's a measurement. Yeah.
Interesting.
But quantum already exists, so that it just feeds into like, how does that fit into the real world? And we're just on the very infant understanding of what quantum means for the real world. Once we get a better understanding for it, we're going to learn a lot more about like, what if you get in the future and like, oh, ghosts, all it is a holograph from a different multiverse, right?
Yeah.
Now you feel differently. Now it's not as fun. You don't have Halloween built around something because it's just you get.
It's still pretty cool.
It is cool, but it's not a ghost. It's not a
dead
thing.
person.
Right.
It's just really cool science.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Julie says, read about the Akashic records. Fascinating. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
Ooh, Julie, do tell. And why she's doing that was I just going to ask you. Yeah, one that would be cool. You had talked about when we were talking about this idea of our imagination sort of running wild with thoughts we have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do this on a daily basis and can't stop. Like, when I go to bed at night, I have a walk-in closet in my bathroom. And so if I have to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, there's an open door to a big closet. I'm a 41-year-old grown woman. Every night I have to shut that door because it creeps me out if that door is open and it's the middle of the night and it's dark and I think something in there is going to get me.
Here's what I do. Like, I'm the opposite of that.
Yeah.
When any fear mechanism tells me that something's too dangerous, what I do is like, if I walk by your closet and someone's like, oh, there's a monster in there, my stubborn butt will go sit in the middle of the dark closet. And I make this agreement with myself. If you sat in there a couple times and you didn't see anything, then it's not there. If you go in there and something snarls at you, then you have every right to then close that door. But until I have data, I don't allow non-data to guide my actions.
Well, what if it gets you and you die and you should have never done it?
Because it's not real, right? So you're going up the basement steps and you've turned all the lights off behind you. Your brain suggests there's something that's going to be ready to grab your ankles. You have two choices.
Something behind me just made a noise and freaked me out.
Run faster, right? Or turn around, point down at the ground and say, nothing there, right? What's the downside?
I can't do it. Like, every night I tell myself, I'm leaving this door open.
But your fear muscle will say, all right, you know what? He made me look stupid and foolish. I'm not going to give him things because all he's going to do is go do the thing that you're afraid of. And then it's not going to be effective. So you can kill it if you would just stand up to it. Be brave. Don't like spiders? Put spiders all over you. You got to face those things. Do it.
I don't know. I can't do it. The Akashic records are a belief system that all thoughts, words, emotions, and events are recorded in a non-physical plane. So similar? I need to read this. The records, Akashic records.
Take note of that. I'll look into it. But I mean, from a quantum standpoint, everything that has ever been said, written, that you could ever do is on a different plane. And if you can access the information on another plane, you have access to things that either have happened or going to happen.
So it doesn't even have to have happened. It is possible.
It's all happened. Remember, there's an infinite amount of yous out there that have made every situation, every decision that you had to choose, right? Choose your own adventure. It's done all of that, right? So all possibilities have happened in the infinite amount of multiverses that exist.
So do you think one day a time traveler from the future will come and see us and be like, oh, yeah, visiting other dimensions? Do that in 11 minutes. It's a thrill ride.
Maybe there's or maybe the pursuit of that knowledge is what unixists us. And so we never really make it to having an understanding because nature doesn't want us to get there. Like going into a black hole, like theoretically go visit it, but it pulls your atoms apart and strings them into spaghetti and you die. So having done that, yeah, theoretically you could, but it wouldn't be a great experience.
Why I shouldn't go in the closet because everything is telling me not to, and you just shut the door to keep yourself alive. Basically,
I don't disagree with that. I mean, that's a safe play. But if you want to face your fears, then you go face them. If you want to destroy them, you go face them. Have fun.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.